excited to have you here at the Snap Society.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Bree is just all over Facebook. She has got a great network on Facebook, and I just see her stuff all the time. I love it, and what I've been seeing a lot of is newborns, which is actually pretty applicable to you right now because you have a little bun in the oven, don't you?
I do. Yes, I'm due in May, but it
Awesome.
might as well be eternity because it's taken forever.
I know it does seem like it takes forever. Well, we want to hear from you some tips and tricks about newborn photography. It's really funny because I was teaching a workshop on Lightroom, and somebody had come from one of your workshops, and she was asking me a question about you and how you do something. I'm like, I don't know how she does that. You probably should have asked her. So anyways, we want to just pick your brain about newborn photography and how you get those great pictures. So can you give us a couple tips?
Absolutely. When I was racking my brain thinking about what was most valuable to me starting out, I came up with a couple things. And the first thing I would suggest is the way you time your sessions, not
Okay.
going crazy, fast and furious. I always have an allotted amount of time for each of my newborn sessions because each baby has a personality. You never know what kind of a personality you're going to get. You
Yeah,
could be
right.
done in an hour or you could take 3 hours.
Right.
So I make sure my client moms know that they need to have a 3-hour time window, and we
Okay.
don't take it usually all 3 hours. But that way everyone's relaxed. We can just kind of joke and laugh and have a good time and just slowly flow through the newborn session and not feel pressure to make sure mom gets to her hair appointment, or we can't let baby finish eating because we have to get done by this time.
Right.
So when I'm relaxed, I think mom's relaxed. When mom's relaxed, baby's relaxed. And it just ends up going so much better.
Yes.
So that would be my first
Yeah, I think
suggestion.
that's really wise. Yeah, because it's no good to be rushing. And unfortunately, you can't tell a baby, I'm on a schedule here. You need to speed
Right.
it up. You need to
They are
cooperate.
absolutely the shot callers.
Yes, absolutely. Okay,
Yes,
what's your
I'm
next
not the boss.
what's your next tip for us?
One thing that I really struggled with when I first started newborn photography, and I just didn't know much about, was the kind of lighting that I wanted to use with newborn photography. I think natural is beautiful. It's natural, and I also think strobe is great because it's very consistent and reliable. So my problem starting out was that I didn't pick my poison, and I used a little bit of both.
Right.
So I would try to balance my natural light, which is naturally very cool, for example, in the winter months, the color temperature, and I would try to balance that with my strobe light, or at the time, continuous light, which was tungsten and very warm. And I just had this Bermuda Triangle of hideous white balance hot mess, and it was really hard to fix, and especially if you're not shooting in RAW yet, where you can do a very quick, easy white balance fix. I would suggest choosing one or the other, either going with natural light or going with a strobe light, and not trying to find a happy place in between.
Right.
Because although you can, if you're not really familiar with lighting, it can be really hard.
Yes. Okay. That's a very good point. That's even for these videos. I have to pick my lighting. What kind of lighting am I going to use? And it really
Right.
does affect your white balance. It kind of messes you up if you don't choose ahead of time.
Absolutely.
So,
Babies have weird skin tones sometimes, and so if your white balance is off or you use a bright colored blanket, that it only compounds the difficulty trying to get the right
look.
look.
Well, you have a ton of props and a ton of, I would just love to go to your house one day and just prop shop, because it seems like you have something new every time. There's such a great variety of stuff. So how do you choose what you're going to do? How do you handle that? And I'm sure you have moms saying, I want it to look just like that, so what do you do with that?
Well, when I first started out and I didn't have a lot of stuff, I used to kind of let my clients choose
Okay.
what they liked, what backdrops, baskets or whatever. And as I've grown and as I've evolved and I've done more newborns, I've kind of come into my style a little bit.
Okay.
And so I actually don't, because I have such a massive amount of proppage that I can choose from, I actually don't let my clients shop. I usually have a few choices set aside either the morning of or the night before. It takes me about an hour.
Oh, really?
To really put together. Well, if I'm really trying hard.
Yeah. Well, and your
really
stuff is beautiful.
Together,
so.
Yeah, something different, something new, and something that's cohesive. Because when you let your clients pick through your stuff, they often have great taste and they pick cute pieces, but then they try to mesh them together, and it doesn't always shoot like you hoped it would.
Right.
So I like to still give them the opportunity to pick between, 3 or 4 different setups that I've come up with. But I know beforehand how it's going to turn out, what it's going to look like. And it also takes a lot of the guesswork and time out of it. Because if I'm not planned, I don't have a plan ahead of time, I'm scrambling around, this hat with this, and I guess that will look okay. And it doesn't turn out as good.
Yeah.
So,
and, as a new mom, they're hiring you. You're the expert. You know what you're doing. Your stuff is beautiful. They don't want to have to make those choices. And if they do, I can just imagine how long it would take them to make a choice out of all of your stuff.
It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming.
And then the baby has a blowout, and the baby needs to eat, and so your 3 hours turns into 4. So, yeah, that's so great. I think we can forget to do that and just kind of wing it, and it doesn't work quite as well.
Right. It never quite turns out as well when you wing it.
Yeah. Okay. So what I love is how you have the baby and, you've got your blanket, and then it just gets all blurry. Now, I know what that is. I know how you do that in your camera, but what does your setup look like?
I think one of the biggest mistakes that we make when we're starting out with beanbag and blanket posing with newborns is the way we set up our blanket. The distance you have between your newborn and the back of the blanket says a lot about how much bokeh you're going to get in camera. A lot of people will slope their blanket up really sharp.
Okay.
And that means baby is right next to the back of the blanket. And you're just not going to get the depth of field that you were hoping for. But if you have baby and a really gradual, slow slope, you're going to get that really pretty background blur in camera. I rarely do a blanket fade unless my blanket's wrinkly or has a snack or something.
Right. Well, and too, when I've seen it where people are actually putting the baby on the beanbag, the blanket is on the beanbag, and the beanbag the blanket literally just goes off the beanbag. It doesn't even go slope onto anything. And so when you've got your baby on there, there's not going to be that depth of field that you're trying to achieve. So I love that. Didn't you say that you sometimes use like a clothing hanger or something to...
Oh, yeah. So I'm Ghetto Fabulous, because that's how I roll. And I found a clothing hanger pole gadget at Walmart for $20. It was super cheap. And granted, it's not great quality either, but it was the perfect height for my blankets, to clamp my blankets from the beanbag. So,
that's an easy fix.
Easy, cheap fix. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Walmart.
Yes. We are not getting paid to solicit Walmart. So, if you want to know more from Bree, how can we learn more from you?
I do workshops with Hannah Hilliard Photography out of Indiana. She's fabulous. We've got a couple this year, but we don't have any more space. So, I do one-on-one mentoring, which I'm happy to have people. Some people fly out to do it. Some people are in my area. So I always offer that. And I'm hoping that maybe at the end of the year or maybe next year, we'll be able to roll out a few more workshops because they're really fun.
Yeah. And what is the name of that? I've forgotten.
The Master of Fun.
Oh, yes. And you are so fun. I would definitely want to go to one of your workshops.
It is really fun.
Now, okay, this is what I was going to ask you. Where do you typically take your newborn pictures? It sounds like you do it in your home. Do you ever go to the client's house?
You know, I don't. I can see the use for that when you're doing a lifestyle type newborn
Yes.
session. You'd probably want to do that. Because I have such a big setup of stuff, I do it in my home. And
Yeah.
we just moved into a new home. So I'm looking forward to building a studio space
Ooh.
for that.
You're going to
So
have to
for
share
now,
that with
we'll
us.
Yes. I will. I'm excited.
That would be great. Well, Bree, thank you so much for taking time out to chat with us today. You can find Bree at Bluebird Pictures, and you can find her on Facebook. Isn't it just Bluebird Pictures on Facebook? Okay, and we'll have all the links below. She has got a great network of photographers, and in fact, I don't know, can anybody else join into the Nesties?
Yes, I do have a Facebook group called The Nest.
Oh, the
because
Nest.
I'm
We
a-
are the Nesties in the Nest.
Yes.
Okay.
If you belong to it, you are the Nest. And it's really fun because we have freebies that we always have pinned for our members from vendors. And it's just a really good place for people to ask questions without judgment and all different levels. We don't do a greater than thou art type mentality in there.
Yeah.
I won't allow it. So
And it's free.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a lot of people waiting to be part of the Nest, but if they let me know if they're from the Snap Society, they get VIP access.
Nice. Thank you so much. One thing I really like that you do is that you don't just let any comment go through. You actually have to approve the comments, and I love that. I love that.
I do.
That's
I
great.
don't like a circus act. I don't want 400 advertisements from people
Yep.
in the group. So I like to keep it balanced. Sometimes I'm busy and I forget to approve a post and it's not relevant anymore, and I feel bad about that. But I just want it to be a place where people can learn and feel like they're not going to be judged for a silly question about photography, because I didn't have anything like that when I was starting out, and it would have been really helpful.
Yes,
So.
I agree. And it is a great place. It's a great group of people there. So, well, thank you so much, Bree. I would love to have you back on again, maybe when you have your new baby and we can check out your studio and all of that. So thank you for taking the time out to be with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us at the Snap Society, where everything clicks.